The cold wind cut through Dr. Elena Rodriguez like a knife as she stood inside the ice cave deep below Antarctica. Her team had been digging here for 3 months, and what they found made no sense at all. The thing buried in the ice was not from Earth. She was sure of that now. The object was huge, maybe 50 feet tall and 20 feet wide. It looked like a giant crystal, but it was not ice. The surface was smooth and dark, like black glass. Strange patterns ran along its sides, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Every time Elena got close to it, her equipment went crazy. The readings made no sense. Jake Morrison climbed down the ladder into the cave. He was a commander with the United Nations Space Command, sent here to watch over the dig site. The government was very interested in what Elena and her team had found. Jake had seen many strange things in his career, but nothing like this. "Any progress today, Doctor?" Jake asked as he walked over to Elena. His breath made white clouds in the freezing air. Elena shook her head. "The same as yesterday. We can't figure out what it's made of. Our tools can't even scratch it. And look at this." She pointed to a tablet showing wavy lines. "The energy readings keep changing. It's like the thing is alive." Sophie Baker, the team's expert on ancient artifacts, was working at a computer nearby. She had been studying the patterns on the crystal surface for weeks. The designs looked like writing, but not from any language known to humans. Some symbols looked like stars. Others looked like maps of the galaxy. "I think I found something," Sophie called out. Her voice echoed in the cave. Elena and Jake hurried over to her workstation. On Sophie's screen were dozens of images she had taken of the crystal. She had arranged them in rows, trying to find patterns. "Look at these symbols here," she said, pointing to a group of curved lines. "They keep showing up next to what looks like biological data." Jake frowned. "Biological data? You mean like medical scans?" "Exactly like that," Sophie replied. "But here's the weird part. These aren't scans of modern humans." She clicked through several images. "These look like early humans, maybe even our ancestors from hundreds of thousands of years ago." Elena felt her heart skip a beat. "That's impossible. This thing has been buried under the ice for who knows how long. How could it have information about early humans?" Before anyone could answer, the crystal began to glow brighter. The blue light pulsed faster, and new symbols appeared on its surface. Then something amazing happened. The crystal projected images into the air above it like a movie made of light. The 3 humans stared in wonder as the holograms showed them star maps, pictures of planets, and what looked like spaceships. But the most shocking images were of Earth. The crystal showed Earth as it was millions of years ago, then thousands of years ago, then now. It was like watching the planet's entire history. "It's been watching us," Elena whispered. "For a very long time." The images changed again. Now they showed early humans living in caves, then building the first cities, then reaching for the stars. Every major step in human development was recorded here, stored in this alien device buried under the ice. Jake reached for his radio. "Base, this is Morrison. We need to contact headquarters immediately. This is bigger than we thought." But as he spoke, alarms began ringing throughout the cave. Sophie's computers started beeping wildly. "The energy output is increasing," she shouted over the noise. "Something's happening." The crystal's light grew, so bright that Elena had to shield her eyes. New symbols appeared faster than before, scrolling across the surface like text on a computer screen. Then, as suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. The cave fell silent except for the hum of their equipment. The crystal had returned to its soft blue glow, but something had changed. Elena could feel it in the air like the moment before lightning strikes. "What just happened?" Jake asked. Sophie was staring at her readings with wide eyes. "I think it sent a signal, a very powerful signal." She looked up at them. "And I think something just answered. Far above them, at space monitoring stations around the world, operators were seeing things they had never seen before. Captain Ray Collins was on duty at the New Horizon Research Station when his screens lit up with impossible readings. "Control, this is New Horizon," Ray spoke into his microphone. I'm picking up massive energy signatures heading toward Earth. Multiple contacts, moving faster than anything we've ever recorded. The response from Earth came quickly. New Horizon, are you certain? What's their estimated arrival time? Ray checked his instruments again, hoping he had made a mistake. He had not. Control, at their current speed, they'll be here in less than 48 hours. Back in the ice cave, Elena and her team continued to study the crystal, unaware that their discovery had just changed everything. The alien device had been waiting under the ice for thousands of years, waiting for humans to find it and activate its ancient programming. Now that program was running, and beings from across the galaxy knew that the time had come. Earth's long isolation was about to end. Elena touched the crystal's surface with her gloved hand. It felt warm despite the freezing temperature around them. "What are you?" she asked quietly. "And what do you want with us?" The crystal pulsed, once as if it had heard her question, but the answers would have to wait. In 2 days, humanity would learn that they were not alone in the universe. They would discover that their whole history had been watched and recorded by beings beyond their imagination. And they would find out that being human meant something very special to those who lived among the stars. 2 days after the crystal sent its signal, the aliens arrived. They did not come with loud explosions or bright flashes like in the movies. Instead, their ships simply appeared in the sky above Earth, as if they had always been there. Admiral Lisa Chang stood in the command center of the United Nations Space Defense Headquarters, watching the screens that showed dozens of alien ships floating in Earth's orbit. She had been put in charge of something called the First Contact Division just hours ago. Nobody had expected to need such a thing so soon. The alien ships were nothing like what humans had imagined. Some looked like floating crystals, others like liquid metal that changed shape as she watched. One ship looked like it was made of pure light, shimmering and dancing in the darkness of space. "Admiral, we're getting a communication request," reported Lieutenant Kevin Walsh from his station. "They want to talk." Lisa took a deep breath. She was about to become the first human to speak with beings from another world. "Put them through." The main screen flickered, and suddenly Lisa was looking at something that made her mind struggle to understand what she was seeing. The alien was tall and thin, made of what looked like living crystal. Its body sparkled with inner light, and its face had no mouth or nose, just 2 large eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said, though its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am Ambassador Keth of the Valdari. I speak for the Galactic Council." Lisa found her voice. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Keth. I am Admiral Lisa Chang. We are honored by your visit." "We are not here for honor," Keth replied. "We are here because of your discovery. The ancient beacon has been activated after 50,000 years of silence." Before Lisa could ask what that meant, more aliens appeared on the screen. One looked like flowing water that somehow held its shape. Another appeared to be made of many small creatures moving together as one. The diversity was overwhelming. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's top expert on biology, had been called to the meeting. He stared at the aliens with fascination and fear. "How many different species are there?" he asked. "The Galactic Council represents over 10,000 species," Keth answered. "We have ruled the galaxy for longer than your species has existed. But Earth has always been special." Senator Patricia Hayes, representing the world government, stepped forward. "Special how? We're just one small planet." The crystal being's eyes seemed to brighten. "You do not understand. Earth is what we call a nursery planet. It has been protected by ancient law for millions of years. No species was allowed to contact you or interfere with your development." Lisa felt confused. "Protected by whom?" "By the ancients," Keth said. "They were the first species to rule the galaxy. They built great cities among the stars and created wonders we still cannot understand, but they vanished 50,000 years ago, leaving behind only their monuments and their laws." Marcus spoke up. "What does this have to do with humans?" Keth was quiet for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. "The ancients left instructions. They said that one day a species would arise on Earth that would be worthy of their legacy. They called this species the inheritors. Patricia felt her heart racing. You think that's us? Humans? We do not think, said the water-like alien, speaking for the first time. We know. The beacon you found contains ancient technology. It only responds to the species they chose. Lisa was struggling to process this information. Why us? What makes humans so special? Keth's crystalline form seemed to pulse with light. You possess something that we have lost over millions of years of civilization. The ancients called it the gift of impossible solutions. I don't understand, Marcus said. Your species is young and chaotic, Keth explained. You have not yet learned that some problems cannot be solved. When faced with the impossible, you do not give up. You find ways that should not work, but do. This is what the ancients valued above all else, the group of creatures that moved as one spoke next, their voice like many people talking together. We Zefek have studied your history. When your cities burned, you rebuilt them better. When diseases killed millions, you created medicine to stop them. When your planet became too small, you reached for the stars. You never accept defeat. Senator Hayes felt a chill run down her spine. This all sounds wonderful, but I sense there's bad news coming. Keth's light dimmed slightly. The protection is ending. The ancient device was set to count down from the moment it was activated. You have 1 year to prove that you are truly the inheritors. And if we fail? Lisa asked, though she was afraid of the answer. Then Earth loses its protected status, Keth said simply. You will become just another species in the galaxy, and there are many who believe that humans are not worthy of the ancient legacy. The screen split to show another alien, this one covered in dark armor and wielding weapons. Its face was hidden behind a metal mask, but its voice was full of anger. I am Warlord Thex of the Krovar Empire. For 50,000 years we have waited to claim what the ancients left behind. We will not let primitive apes take what is rightfully ours. More aliens appeared on the screen, all looking hostile. Lisa realized that not everyone in the galaxy was happy about humanity's supposed special status. Keth spoke again, his voice calm despite the tension. The council is divided. Some believe you should be given the chance to prove yourselves. Others think you are too dangerous to be allowed to inherit ancient power. What kind of test? Marcus asked. The ancients left trials throughout the galaxy, Keth explained. Puzzles and challenges that test not your strength or intelligence, but your ability to think in ways that others cannot. Many species have tried these tests over the millennia. All have failed. Patricia stepped closer to the screen. And if we refuse to take these tests? Then the protection ends immediately, Thex growled from his part of the screen. And you will face the consequences of being ordinary in a galaxy that does not value ordinary. Lisa looked around at her colleagues, seeing her own fear reflected in their faces. Humanity had just learned that they were not alone in the universe, that they were supposedly special, and that they had 1 year to prove it or face destruction. We accept, Lisa said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. Humanity will take your tests. Keth's form brightened again. Then let the trials begin. But remember, humans of Earth, the galaxy is watching. Many hope you will fail. The communication ended, leaving the humans alone with the weight of what they had just learned. In 1 day, everything had changed. They were no longer alone, but they were also no longer safe. Outside, the alien ships continued to float in Earth's orbit, waiting to see if humanity truly deserved to inherit the greatest legacy in the galaxy. The year of trials began 3 weeks after first contact, and everything changed for humanity. Ancient devices started appearing all over Earth. They rose from the ocean floors, emerged from deep caves, and materialized in the middle of deserts. Each one was different, but they all had the same purpose: to test humans in ways no one understood. Dr. Elena Rodriguez now led the Ancient Technology Research Division, a team of the smartest people from every country on Earth. She stood in front of the first test device they had found, a spinning cube made of the same dark crystal as the Antarctic beacon. It floated 3 feet off the ground in a laboratory in Geneva, humming with energy that made nearby computers malfunction. It's been showing us the same puzzle for 2 days, Elena explained to her team. Numbers and symbols that change every time we think we understand them. Dr. Ben Taylor, a mathematician from Australia, had been working on the puzzle since it appeared. The pattern makes no sense, he said, frustration clear in his voice. Every time I solve one part, the rest changes completely. Elena studied the floating symbols above the cube. Something about them felt familiar, but she couldn't figure out what. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong, she said. What if it's not supposed to make sense? Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was learning to fly humanity's first faster-than-light spacecraft. The ship had been built using partially understood ancient technology that the aliens had allowed them to study. It was called the UES Endeavour, and it shouldn't have been able to work at all. The ship's pilot was Amy Chen, a young woman who had been chosen because she could make the ancient engines respond in ways that baffled the engineers. She sat in the pilot's seat, her hands moving over controls that felt more like a musical instrument than spaceship controls. "How do you do it?" asked Carlos Martinez, the ship's chief engineer. He had been studying the engine systems for months and still didn't understand how they worked. Amy shrugged. "I don't think about it. I just feel what the ship wants to do and go with it." Carlos shook his head. That wasn't how engineering was supposed to work. Machines followed rules and equations, but the ancient technology seemed to respond better to intuition than logic. Back on Earth, Professor Nancy Kim made a discovery that changed how everyone thought about the tests. She was studying brain scans of people who had successfully solved ancient puzzles when she noticed something strange. "Look at this," she told her research team at the University of California. The brain scan on her screen showed unusual activity in areas that most people never used. When humans solve these puzzles, they're not using the parts of their brain for logic or mathematics. "What parts are they using?" asked her assistant, Dr. Lisa Park. "The creative centers," Nancy replied. "The same areas that activate when people make art or music or tell stories. It's like the ancients designed these tests to reward imagination, not intelligence." This news spread quickly through the research community. Teams around the world started approaching the ancient tests differently. Instead of trying to solve them like math problems, they began treating them like art projects. The results were amazing. Dr. Elena Rodriguez finally solved the spinning cube puzzle by arranging the symbols to make a picture instead of trying to make them follow mathematical rules. When she did, the cube opened to reveal new technology that could generate clean energy from nothing. In Australia, a team of archaeologists found a buried ancient device that tested people's ability to work together. The device created scenarios where cooperation was more important than competition. Humans passed this test easily, something that surprised the watching aliens. Captain Jake Morrison and his crew took the UES Endeavour on its first real mission to an ancient test site near Jupiter. The site was a massive structure floating in space, covered with puzzle chambers that had defeated alien explorers for thousands of years. Amy Chen flew the ship through obstacles that should have been impossible to navigate. She ignored the computer calculations and trusted her instincts, spinning and diving through energy fields that would have destroyed any other pilot. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Frank Davis, the mission's scientist. "The gravitational forces should be tearing us apart." But Amy just smiled and kept flying. The ship responded to her like it was alive, bending physics in ways that made no sense but somehow worked perfectly. When they reached the test chamber, they found something that made everyone stop and stare. The chamber was filled with floating platforms, moving walls, and shifting gravity fields. It looked like a three-dimensional maze designed by someone who didn't understand the laws of physics. Other alien teams had tried this test before. Their ships floated nearby, some damaged. Others simply stopped in confusion. The aliens inside watched as the human ship approached the impossible maze. Carlos Martinez studied the chamber's structure from the engineering station. "There's no pattern," he reported. "The movements are completely random." But Amy was already moving the ship forward. "It's not random," she said, "it's dancing." She flew the Endeavour through the maze like she was dancing with it, matching its rhythm instead of fighting against it. When the walls moved, she moved with them. When gravity shifted, She used it to help the ship flow through impossible spaces. The alien observers couldn't believe what they were seeing. The humans were solving a test that had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds by treating it like a game instead of a problem. Back on Earth, more and more ancient devices were responding to human approaches. People were solving puzzles by painting, with light, creating music from mathematical equations, and finding answers by asking questions that made no logical sense. Ambassador Keth contacted Admiral Lisa Chang with growing concern in his crystalline voice. "Your species is progressing faster than we expected," he said. "The tests that took other species years to understand, you solve in days." Lisa felt proud but also worried. "Is that good or bad?" "It depends on who you ask," Keth replied. "Some council members are impressed. Others are becoming frightened. Warlord Thex has begun gathering allies who think humans are too dangerous to be allowed to continue." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "He believes that if humans inherit ancient power, they will become unstoppable. He is preparing to ensure that your trials end in failure, by force if necessary." Lisa felt a chill run through her. Not only did humanity have to pass impossible tests, but they also had to do it while some of the galaxy's most powerful beings tried to stop them. The year of trials was only half over, but already it was clear that the final test would be about more than solving puzzles. It would be about survival. The final test appeared at the edge of the solar system like a gift from the gods. The ancient Nexus was a space station the size of a small moon, made of the same dark crystal that humans had found buried in Antarctica. It had been hidden for 50,000 years, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour as his ship approached the massive station. With him were the best people humanity had to offer. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had become an expert at understanding ancient technology. Lieutenant Sophie Baker could read ancient symbols better than anyone else alive. Engineer Carlos Martinez had learned to make impossible machines work through pure instinct. But they were not alone in space. Ships from the Galactic Council floated nearby, their crews watching to see if humanity would pass or fail the final test. More worrying were the dark ships of Warlord Thex's alliance hanging in the distance like storm clouds. "The station is scanning us," reported Amy Chen from the pilot's seat. "I'm getting readings I've never seen before." Elena studied her instruments as the Endeavour docked with the Nexus. "The energy patterns are different from the other ancient devices. This one feels alive." Inside the station, the human team found themselves in corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls glowed with soft light, and symbols moved across them like living things. But what made everyone stop and stare was the central chamber. The Dunseam room was enormous, filled with floating platforms and holographic displays. In the center was a sphere of pure energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Around it, alien researchers from the Council were setting up their equipment. "Welcome, humans," said a familiar voice. Ambassador Keth materialized beside them, his crystal body reflecting the chamber's light. "This is the final test. Many species have attempted it over the millennia. None have succeeded." Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked around the chamber with wonder and fear. "What exactly are we supposed to do?" "The Nexus will create scenarios," Keth explained. "Impossible situations that require immediate solutions. Other species have tried to solve them through careful analysis and mathematical modeling. All have failed." A new voice spoke from the shadows. "Because they were weak." Warlord Thex stepped into the light, his armor gleaming. Behind him came warriors from a dozen different species, all armed and dangerous. "We are here to observe and ensure fairness." Jake Morrison didn't like the way Thex said that word. Fairness, coming from someone who had spent months trying to sabotage humanity's trials, didn't sound reassuring. The test began without warning. The energy sphere expanded, filling the chamber with blinding light. When the light faded, everyone found themselves looking at a holographic display of a dying solar system. 5 planets were about to be destroyed by their expanding sun. and billions of people lived on those worlds. "You have 10 minutes to save them," announced the station's voice, which sounded ancient and tired. Previous attempts have included building evacuation fleets, creating energy shields, and relocating the planets. All have failed. The alien observers immediately began calculating. The council scientists pulled out advanced computers and started running simulations. The hegemony warriors discussed military solutions involving massive fleets and planet-moving technology. But Lieutenant Sophie Baker was staring at the display with a different kind of focus. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" she said quietly. "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "Everyone's trying to save the planets or move the people," Sophie replied. "But what if we don't need to do either?" She walked over to the control panel and began touching symbols that felt right to her, not ones that made logical sense. The display changed, showing new information about the dying star. "The star isn't really dying," Sophie announced. "It's sick. Something is making it expand too fast." Carlos Martinez caught on immediately. "So instead of treating the symptoms, we treat the disease." Working together, the human team began to approach the problem differently. Instead of trying to evacuate billions of people or move entire planets, they started looking for what was wrong with the star itself. Elena discovered that the star had been infected by some kind of energy parasite. Amy Chen figured out how to use the system's own gravitational fields to contain the infection. Carlos found a way to turn the star's excess energy into something useful instead of destructive. In 8 minutes, they had solved a problem that had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds for thousands of years. The alien observers were speechless. The solution was so simple and obvious that they couldn't understand why no one had thought of it before. But Warlord Thex was not impressed. "Luck," he snarled. "Let's see them handle a real challenge." That's when the alarm started ringing. The station's voice spoke with urgency. "Warning. Security protocols activated. Unauthorized interference detected." The chamber filled with red light as the station's defenses came online. Energy barriers slammed down, trapping everyone inside. Weapon systems emerged from the walls, targeting anything that moved. "What's happening?" Jake shouted over the noise. Keth's crystal form was flashing with alarm. "Someone has sabotaged the station. It thinks we're invaders." The Galactic Council observers were already running for their ships. The hegemony warriors were preparing for battle. But the humans did something that shocked everyone. They started talking to the station. "We're not your enemies," Elena said, to the walls, speaking to the station like it was a frightened animal. "We're here to help." Carlos was at a control panel, not trying to override the systems, but trying to understand them. "The station is confused," he reported. "It's been alone for so long that it doesn't know friend from enemy anymore." Amy Chen was moving through the chamber, dodging energy blasts while trying to reach the central controls. "It's not trying to kill us," she called out. "It's trying to protect something." Sophie Baker was still reading the ancient symbols on the walls. "It's protecting the final test," she realized. "Someone tried to destroy it, and now the station thinks everyone is a threat." Working together while weapons fired around them, the human team began to calm the station down. They didn't fight the defenses or try to shut them down. Instead, they showed the station that they were there to help it complete its ancient purpose. Elena synchronized her equipment with the station's systems. Carlos began repairing damaged circuits that had been sabotaged. Amy flew through the chamber's obstacles like she was dancing with them. Sophie translated the station's confused messages into something everyone could understand. Slowly, the red lights changed to blue. The weapons stopped firing. The energy barriers faded away. The station's voice spoke again. But this time it sounded different, clearer, more alive. "Thank you," it said. "I had forgotten what it was like to have friends." The ancient nexus began to change before their eyes. The dark crystal walls started glowing with warm light, and new passages opened throughout the station. Systems that had been dormant for 50,000 years hummed back to life, responding to the humans who had shown them kindness instead of trying to control them. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched in amazement as the station's central chamber transformed. The floating platforms rearranged themselves into a pattern that somehow felt welcoming. The energy sphere in the center pulsed with gentle light instead of harsh brightness. "I understand now," the station's voice said, and it sounded like an old person who had just woken up from a long sleep. "You are the ones they told me to wait for." Commander Jake Morrison stepped forward. "Who told you to wait?" "My creators. The ancients." The voice paused, as if remembering something important. "I am not just a test station. I am the last of them." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a being that looked almost human, but taller and more graceful. Its eyes held the wisdom of ages, and when it spoke, its voice was filled with both sadness and hope. "I am the final consciousness of the ancient race," the hologram said. "My people evolved beyond the need for physical bodies long ago, but I chose to remain behind for this moment." Admiral Lisa Chang's voice came through the communication system. "From Earth. You've been waiting here for 50,000 years? Time means little to me now," the ancient replied. "But yes, I have waited for a species that could carry our work forward in ways we never could." Lieutenant Sophie Baker was studying the symbols that flowed across the walls. "Why us? What makes humans special?" The ancient's image smiled, and the expression was both alien and familiar. "My people became masters of order and logic. We could predict every outcome, solve every equation, control every force in the universe. But we discovered that perfection was also a prison." Engineer Carlos Martinez frowned. "I don't understand. How can being perfect be bad?" "Because perfection leaves no room for growth," the ancient explained. "We became so efficient, so logical, that we lost the ability to be surprised. We could no longer create anything truly new." Amy Chen was listening from the pilot station. "So you looked for someone who was still chaotic?" "Not chaotic," the ancient corrected gently. "Creative. You see possibilities where we see only problems. Where we calculate the best solution, you imagine impossible solutions. Where we preserve what exists, you build what could be." The hologram gestured, and the chamber filled with images of human history. Not the wars and disasters that aliens often focused on, but the moments of incredible creativity. Artists painting beauty on cave walls, scientists discovering fire and the wheel, musicians creating songs that touch the soul. "Your species refuses to accept limitations," the ancient continued. "When faced with the impossible, you don't give up. You find a way to make the impossible become possible." Suddenly, alarms rang throughout the station. Warlord Thex's ships were attacking, firing weapons that made space itself burn with dark energy. But the station's new defenses were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of energy shields or weapon systems, the station created something that made the attacking ships simply stop working. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gently turned off like someone had unplugged them. "How did you do that?" Jake asked in amazement. "I combined ancient precision with human creativity," the station replied. "The solution was elegant and peaceful, something neither of our species could have achieved alone." More ships appeared, this time from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Keth's vessel docked with the station, and soon the crystal being was standing in the chamber with the humans. "The Council has reached a decision," Keth announced. "After witnessing what has happened here today, we unanimously declare that humanity has proven their worthiness of the ancient legacy," but the ancient consciousness raised a hand. "The Council's approval, while appreciated, is not necessary. The choice was never theirs to make." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. "The tests were not to prove your worth to the galaxy," the ancient explained. "They were to prove your worth to yourselves. Every challenge you faced, every impossible solution you found was preparing you for what comes next." The chamber filled with new holograms showing star maps, technological blueprints, and wonders beyond imagination. But these weren't ancient creations preserved in museums. They were new designs, combinations of ancient knowledge and human innovation. "This is your inheritance," the ancient said. "Not our old empire, but the tools to build something better. Something that neither my people nor any other species could create alone." Carlos was staring at engine designs that made his mind spin. These ships could travel to other galaxies. Sophie was looking at communication devices that could connect minds across impossible distances. We could talk to any species in the universe. Amy saw navigation systems that turned space travel into an art form. We could explore places that don't even exist yet. Elena found medical technology that could heal not just bodies, but entire ecosystems. We could fix broken worlds. The ancient's voice grew warm with something that might have been pride. Now you begin to understand. This is not about conquest or dominance. This is about becoming something new. A bridge between what was and what could be. Ambassador Keth's crystal form was pulsing with amazement. The council had no idea the ancient legacy was so vast. Because the council, like my people, thinks in terms of preservation and control, the ancient replied. Humans think in terms of growth and possibility. That is why they are the inheritors. Jake looked around at his team, seeing the same mixture of excitement and responsibility in their faces. What happens now? Now you begin the real work, the ancient said. You take these tools and use them to build a future that surprises even me. You explore the unknown, create the impossible, and help other species remember how to dream. Elena touched one of the control panels, and she could feel the vast network of ancient knowledge flowing through her mind. But it wasn't overwhelming, because it came with human intuition to guide it. We won't let you down, she promised. The ancient's image began to fade, but its voice remained strong. I know you won't, because that's not who you are. You are the species that turns ordinary into extraordinary, that makes impossible into inevitable. As the consciousness finally departed, the station continued to hum with new life. Around them, the galaxy was changing. Ships built with human creativity and ancient precision began to explore regions of space that had been unreachable for millions of years. 10 years later, Captain Amy Chen commanded a crew of humans and aliens working together on missions to the far edge of the universe. Her ship was just one of hundreds pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Back on Earth, the Elena Rodriguez Institute had become the center of galactic learning, where beings from across the universe came to study the human approach to solving impossible problems. The galaxy was growing, changing, becoming something that none of its ancient civilizations had ever imagined. And at the heart of it all was the species that had once been considered ordinary, until they chose to be extraordinary. The age of humanity had begun, but it was not an age of human dominance. It was an age of human inspiration, where the gift of seeing possibilities instead of problems spread to every corner of the galaxy. The ancients had left behind their legacy, but humanity had made it into something entirely new.